This is a 69 News special report.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rob Vaughn. We interrupt our regular programming for just a moment to bring you a special report. Multiple police departments have converged on Parkland High School in South Whitehall Township, Lehigh County, just north of Allentown, after reports of a suspicious person inside the school. According to initial reports, this intruder was confronted on the school grounds at around 5 p.m. The person apparently then ran into the high school. More than a half dozen local police departments are there. A state police SWAT team is also there. A state police helicopter responded to the scene as well as you look over the large Parkland campus in South Whitehall. We are told that students, including band members who were in the building at the time, were evacuated. Reportedly, there were others inside for sporting events as well. According to school administrators, those students who were inside were taken to Troxel Middle School. A school official also tells us the high school is on lockdown, has been for some time, and as far as we know still is. According to our 69 News crew on the scene, when Allentown police arrived on the scene, now Allentown police now coming in to help out in South Whitehall, they arrived around 6:30, and our crew says the Allentown police immediately pulled rifles from their vehicles. At this point, it does not appear that the police have found the person that they're looking for. Police set up a staging area for all media. That's about 2 miles away from the school. Cedar Crest Boulevard is being blocked off in that area. So again, just to recap for you quickly, multiple police departments are at Parkland High School in South Whitehall Township after reports of a suspicious person who ran into the school after being confronted on the school grounds at about 5 p.m. According to a news release from the school, the Parkland football team, the band, and the cheerleaders who are playing an away game tonight, they're not playing here on campus, they will be coming home to the Troxler building after the ball game tonight. The team, the band, the cheerleaders, just so you know, are to be coming to Troxel Middle School building after the game. And any students who have vehicles at Parkland High School now will not be able to pick them up until tomorrow. This is according to the school district itself. Again, Parkland High School on lockdown. Suspicious person, as far as we have last heard, still in the building. Be sure to stay with 69 News and WFMZ.com for the very latest on this story. We're changing our web story all the time, so check at WFMZ.com for that. A live report coming up on the news at 10 if we don't need to talk to you before that time. I'm Rob Vaughn. See you then.
This is a 69 News special report. Your life, your world, your news. This is 69 News live at 10.
Good evening, I'm Rob Vaughn.
And I'm Wendy Davis. First at 10, we start tonight with the very latest on that situation that was unfolding tonight at Parkland High School.
A situation that it now appears is under control, apparently a false alarm of some type. The report of an intruder on campus at around 5 o'clock. Swarms of police surrounded Parkland High School. The school was into lockdown. Right now, authorities are talking about it at a news conference. Here's the DA, Jim Martin. Let's listen in for a bit.
I should say to the officers who talked to him, is exactly what the teacher described having occurred.
How far along in the search were you? I know Parkland's a big school, so were you guys room by room? What did the search consist of?
We had cleared the lower level, John.
We were approximately 1/5 of the way through that school. It is a very, very large school. And we had a lot of manpower, but it still would have taken the amount of guys we had there at least 5 hours. So once we were positive that we had identified the person, we were able to call this off and move on.
The ERT team that responded from Allentown had a robot with it, and that's a very slow, meticulous process. And obviously, there were, as areas were cleared, there were patrol officers who were stationed there to make sure that no one came back into the area. So it's a very meticulous, step-by-step process, and it takes time.
So how were you able then to identify the person? Like, who made the connections?
Detectives, that's what they do. Yeah, they worked hard, and they were crucial in what happened today. Of course, we're going to be looking into who was this person, and that was, as we responded, as we need to do, and handle the emergency scene, we're also trying to figure out who this person was, where they came from, what they were doing. And through the investigation, we ultimately did uncover who he was and what he was doing, which was
he aware?
This was a student, right? Working out.
Well, he was a student, and obviously, word got around not only the community but the school community, I think that there were some announcements made, even at the football game up in Northampton. Is that right, Rich?
Yeah.
So, you know, he came forward, and we had a number of different possibilities through the course of the night. Once we decided that we would look to see if possibly this student could be located, or if it was a student could be located. And there were several individuals who were called, and through that process they honed in on one particular person who confirmed what I've indicated.
So he knew something was going on.
I don't know the answer to that question, did he?
No, I don't know that.
I don't think so. I mean, he was called, he was questioned, and he confirmed his activities. And what we were particularly concerned with were what caught or what drove the teacher to believe that it was suspicious was what was occurring at the flagpole, which turns out to be very innocent, but he confirmed without any prompting that in fact he did do this, because he was asked to recount what he had done. You know, first of all, were you there this afternoon? How were you dressed? And what did you do? And it all fit.
Senior, junior, sophomore?
We're not going to get into it.
Jim, you talked about the expense. When something like this, with all these, law enforcement agencies coming down here, who picks up this expense? Where does this expense go?
All the individual municipalities who send people down here, and all the various EMS units will pick it up. They'll absorb it themselves, and it will be. It's now 10 o'clock, and most of these people were arriving sometime around 6. I mean, obviously South Whitehall was here and in place. The Pennsylvania State Police were here. The first thing that was done was to establish a perimeter around the school. But yeah, the ERT units, it takes some time to mobilize them. The people from Bethlehem, got here, I would say, sometime around 7 o'clock, maybe a little later. People from Allentown, got here at about the same time. The county team, we had every law enforcement asset that we could reach come out here, because going into it, and in part, as John said, that exercise a month or so ago proved to be very useful, because Lieutenant Crispin and South Whitehall Township and all the police agencies really had participated in that. So the school, which is a very, very large footprint to search, was familiar ground to them. But nevertheless, it was going to take a lot of time, and once we reached
What an evening it's been in the Parkland School District, and concerned parents can breathe a sigh of relief tonight. Those who have kids in Parkland, which would involve, of course, many hundreds of families. The report of an intruder at the school led to swarms of police all around the high school, chopper overhead. All it turns out to be is a false alarm, sort of a big mistake.
Yes.
Someone thinking that this person who was labeled an intruder all evening was that. Turns out it was a student doing something, as the DA just said, quite innocent.
Yes, apparently a big misunderstanding is what Jim Martin was telling, as you saw that there on the news conference. He said that they were planning on being there for probably at least another 5 hours, because Parkland is such a big school, as he pointed out, and they had to search. The concern, of course, was that there were reports that there was a weapon involved. There was a report that perhaps they were concerned about explosives involved. So, as he mentioned, there was every police asset that they had was on hand going for the search, and of course, fortunately, in the end, that it turned out to be a false alarm.
A student who they're not identifying, who was working out on campus, and as you may have caught there, reference to the student having been out at a flagpole, and something that must have looked to someone like he was praying there. That set off some kind of an alarm bell. A teacher asked about it. A teacher reported to the authorities that this was happening, when it turns out in the end, a student that they made a bunch of calls. They figured out who the student was, and he says, yes, that was me out there working out. It was simply that. And then social media, of course, picked up on this. It was all a buzz everywhere that there's some kind of, there was a lockdown at the high school. There's no doubt about that. But whether there was trouble at the high school turns out not to have been trouble at all.
Yeah, and of course, this caused a lot of concern in the area for parents and for students alike. We had a lot of people calling the newsroom, a lot of people emailing, just trying to get any kind of information about what was going on.
Yep, an automated email and phone call. I went out to parents, but that was a number of hours after the incident. Some parents are upset about that. And WFMZ's Catherine Hawley is joining us in South Whitehall Township with more on that. Catherine.
Rob and Wendy, we're standing across the street from the Troxel building, and you can see behind me that parents are already here waiting for their children to be dropped off from tonight's football game against Northampton. Now, the email and phone call made to parents is also posted on the Parkland website, and it basically says that an incident was going on at the school tonight, and all access to the campus was cut off. It also let them know the Parkland football team, band, and cheerleaders were being brought back here to Troxel building, and that students will have to wait until tomorrow to get any cars parked at the high school. Now, parents were finally notified through email and that automated phone call just before 9 o'clock tonight. And we spoke with a mother who says she's very upset and that she doesn't think parents should have been left in the dark as long as they were.
What I'm upset about is that we weren't given any information. And I don't like the fact that I have to get really important news about my family on Facebook from somebody that I don't even know. That concerns me. That concerns me a lot. Would have been really nice to know, not to have to go for hours at a time wondering what they're doing.
Now, it looks like out here back at the scene that Cedar Crest Boulevard has been reopened. But as far as we know, the bus from the football game against Northampton is still bringing all of the cheerleaders, the band members, and the football team back here to the Troxel building. So any parents who hadn't heard that message, they can probably head on over here to pick up their children. Live from South Whitehall Township, Catherine Hawley, 69 News.
All right, Catherine, thank you. Interestingly enough, just over a month ago, this was referred to in the news conference a few minutes ago, Parkland was the scene of a massive emergency drill, a so-called active shooter drill, to train emergency officials and responders for just this kind of incident. 300 volunteers were involved, more than a dozen police agencies were all there at Parkland. The simulation went on involving a lockdown and a search for shooters. So ironically, they were all back out, many of the same people I'm sure, were back out at Parkland tonight, no doubt sooner than they ever expected to be.
All right, so to recap for you once again, Parkland High School in South Whitehall Township, the scene there is clear. It had been under lockdown for several hours this evening, concern of somebody with a weapon, but as we just heard, it was a false alarm. A false alarm, a student, as it turned out, who had been exercising or working out, according to the authorities we heard from in the news conference that is just wrapping up there in South Whitehall Township. An innocent event, according to DA Jim Martin. A student working out on campus stirred some kind of a suspicion. The thought was that that student went into the building, and there began a big search and buzzed through social media that there was an intruder in the building. And there were descriptions floating around on social media about this person having been armed, possibly, but a false alarm is what it was. The student's not being identified, and as far as we know, no charges are to be brought. It was simply a big misunderstanding, so everyone can breathe a big sigh of relief in Parkland. Much more information on WFMZ.com during the course of the night. To other news tonight. All right, now another quick look at our top story tonight, the lockdown at Parkland High School. WFMZ's Will Lewis has been following the story all night. He is joining us now from south of Whitehall Township with an update. Will.
Well, Wendy and Rob, that press conference wrapped up just moments ago. And, you know, the district attorney, Lehigh County District Attorney Jim Martin is saying that it was an exercise that they were prepared for. Now, of course, around about 4:45, a teacher on the grounds of Parkland High School saw a young man with a military-type vest, sweating profusely, ran up to a flag, yelled, saluted the flag, and then said a prayer and then ran off. Of course, that sent shockwaves through the school and everybody on the grounds. Around about 500 people were there at the school at that time. Emergency service crews from inside of Lehigh County and outside of Lehigh County responded to the call. They evacuated the students and the parents. There was a volleyball game going on, a field hockey game going on. They evacuated all those people to the football field and then got them out of there. Later on, 3 SWAT teams came to the school. They were going through the school, but detectives were also working the case, trying to find the person that what they had called suspicious. Later on, detectives did find that student who confirmed, yes, he was wearing a military-type vest and what he said. And when they did confirm that identity, the crews then felt that it was safe to go ahead and call off the search. They had gone through about 1/5 of the school, but they say after that, they called all the crews back and everything else. Now, District Attorney Jim Martin does say that the student didn't do anything wrong. He is a student that is working his way to enlisting in the military, and he was getting ready for boot camp. That's about what they said, and now they say they're just glad that everyone's safe. and all the students are ready to go back home to their parents. Reporting live in South Whitehall Township, Will Lewis, 69 News.
Wow, big misunderstanding. Thank you
Yes.
so much for the wrap up there, Will.
Yeah, happy ending, luckily.
Yeah, glad to say it is wrapped up indeed. Just
Yeah.
a big misunderstanding at Parkland today. I'm sure they'll be talking about this next week. Parkland has a school board meeting next